We are live, and we don't want to make a copy and paste type of show, but we've been doing this on Uchi's channel for, I don't know, I feel like it's been 3 weeks, right? Is that a good time frame there?
Yeah, you're right. About 3 weeks.
So, in one of those shows, interestingly enough, Uche had let on that he had talked to a couple people over at EA Sports, the creators of what we all know to be one of the greatest football games in the universe, Madden NFL 21. And from there, he started to talk about an idea he had approached the team with, which I, to my credit, kept quiet about. I could have been one of the ones that said the biggest Madden information ever will be on my channel. My channel will be the flagship of Madden news, but I did not do it. And now today, I'm thankful I didn't do it because you called me in the midst of my workday, very upset and very angry, and you expressed to me something that had took place, and I said, geez, on a scale of 1 to 10, how mad are you? And you said I'm an 8. And I said, well, hold this energy off. Let's get you dialed down to a 4. We'll get you down to a 3. We'll get you down to a 0.02, which is Madden's rating score, and then we'll talk about it. So why don't you share with the people what took place prior to today with you and EA, and then we'll jump forward to what took place just today, really.
All right, so I had a couple of Zoom calls with the guys at EA, Clint and another cat. I forget his name, but he's actually above. He's like the head guy for Madden.
John Madden. It was John Madden, right? The head guy.
Wasn't Madden, but if there was any one person that would be directly under Madden, if he's a top guy, this was the guy.
John Madden Jr. JMJ.
I don't even know if there was a junior.
I don't know. If there is, he should have his own video game.
Made by 2K.
You're already throwing daggers.
So essentially what I proposed to them was a way to, revitalize franchise mode. And the way that you would do it is you would apply franchise mode. You would have franchise mode online, but online with a bit of a fantasy football structure implemented into it. So you pick your team like you would if you were doing a fantasy football draft. And throughout the course of your season, you could take any players whose cards you have. Like, obviously when you visualize it, you're visualizing it in the same format you would visualize Ultimate Team. It's cards. Every player you have is a card. And the ratings on those cards would change, based on how you perform during games. And all of the point system is based in the same kind of feature set as what you see in fantasy football regularly. And did you just go live?
No, we've been live, but welcome to a couple minutes ago. Welcome to 3 minutes and 37 seconds ago.
Okay, just making sure.
That might have been a funny joke because see the other day on Monday, was it Monday or was it Sunday? You wasted a good bit of my time.
Wasted like 30. Yeah, it's like 30 seconds. But anyway,
I forgot what day it was. But we had the most epic of all intros planned out for 2 shows. And right after we get done, what has to be one of the greatest moments in YouTube history, Uche says to me, I didn't hit the record button. We're not live. And I was like,
it was like 30 seconds.
Yeah. It was
that's where we figured out that timer that's where we figured out that timer thing is crazy.
That you mean no, the timer thing is actually legitimate. Like when you actually have it, it tells you if you're live or not. And if there's just a timer, it's just counting down the seconds.
Yeah, it just counts down, but you still have to hit live. Go live.
The story that I learned that night was Uche can never host New Year's parties because he would totally just ruin the entire experience with the countdown and then not know the new year had happened. But in a nutshell, I can attest, we had a private conversation where you basically divulged to me, hey, this is what I laid out in very similar to what you just stated,
Well, I'm not done.
I know you're not done, but I was trying to recap
Yeah,
for the people that just came in. You realize there's people that don't stop their entire lives for you and I.
yeah, for sure.
So, in a nutshell, before I know you're used to being on an NFL field where everyone has to be there at 1:00 or they miss the game. This isn't the same process there, bro. So, what had happened was he basically had came up with the concept to incentivize your franchise with your real life players, real life teams to kind of give you a reason to watch your fantasy football players. And hey, if they meet these milestones, my player is going to become exponentially better. So what I get to look for is, let's say, I don't want to use, well, you know what? I will go there. Let's say if Marlon Mack in his last game as a Colt had scored 2 touchdowns, that you would be able to have his rating naturally change within the game. And then from there, everything would go up as far as hopefully player engagement, everything being realistic, everything seeming to, I don't know, be a little bit more interactive, if you will.
Yeah, you're making it more of you're truly making it live service, because everything, it's like a living world for the game. So let's say you have a franchise and you have, you've accumulated a number of cards, you have a couple of duplicates. Let's say you got a duplicate Aaron Rodgers. You can take your duplicate and put it into a fantasy football sponsored tournament, like a DraftKings tournament within franchise mode. And that tournament actually simulates matches based on the individual players' real life performances from fantasy, from real NFL ball. So they would get points applied to them in the same way that fantasy football applies, and whoever ends up with more points in that week would advance. So you could have one matchup a week, and at the end of the month, you would get to the last game in that tournament bracket. So basically, real life performance affects real portions of the online fantasy franchise. So one thing that I stressed to them was, instead of loading up with legacy players cards, you can make legacy players cards. You can reward those people who win those tournaments with legacy player cards, but the cards aren't they aren't forever. You only have a certain number of games to use that card. So if you get, let's say, Walter Payton, you have Walter Payton for 2 games. And once that 2 games is up, that legacy card is no longer usable. So you can either, it either just disappear, or you find another vehicle to like sell it off at a discount at a certain rate in coins. But you basically would be using your entire roster in different ways, because you have an option to take extra cards and use them in real fantasy football point tournaments within the franchise mode. So they were really receptive to that aspect of it, because it actually, allows you to, instead of, I know with me on Ultimate Team, if I have a ton of cards, I just start selling them all off for training points, which is what you use to try and boost up your best players. But in this, you're the one who gets who actually earns the points to boost your players by playing the game in the most sim fashion possible when you're in game with your franchise. Because just doing, running those money plays that everybody runs, the crossing routes in the middle of the field that cats will run 24/7 because they know zone coverage doesn't work. Well, you do that 2 or 3 times and you stop receiving experience points for it. You stop receiving, you stop hitting any milestones or goals that are set in that game, because you're now, the game, and just like in real life with football, if you keep repeating the same plays over and over, you're going to get shut down pretty quickly. So if you start doing that in game, if you're just running around with quarterbacks, or you're running 3 tight end formation, just dives over and over and over, at a certain point, you don't get extra points for doing that. You don't get extra points for, running 6 screens or running 20 slants. Now, winning the game doesn't necessarily mean you'll get more points than the person you played against. If they played more in a more sim nature and accomplished more structural goals that are set within the game, each different match, if they are able to achieve those goals, they'll get maximum experience. But for instance, if you have a red zone, like if there could be a goal that says you have to meet, if you score 70% or higher in the red zone, then you get a certain amount of experience points that can be used on your squad after the game. If you're somebody who scores, long bomb touchdowns, well, you're only going to get max XP for doing that like 2 times in a game, because that doesn't really happen more than a couple times in a game. So the more you do that, the more you spam a play that gets you huge yardage, it doesn't necessarily give you the same kind of points. But if you're playing in a sim style, it comes more down to skill. So the more you stay within that parameter of playing actual football, the more opportunities you have of getting experience points. Third down conversions will be calculated heavily. If you have more than 2 fourth down attempts, you'll start getting hit negatively. Like if you do things that aren't really within reasonable football logic, you lose points for that. So there's somebody who, you play against people online all the time who go for it on 4th and 20. Well, if you do that in this, you're going to lose 200 points, just theoretically speaking. You're going to lose 200 points. Even if you get it, you're going to lose points because that's not how you play football. But as far as it comes to Madden, I mean, I noticed something today that kind of pissed me off, and I tried to think about it in a reasonable manner. But they started their team of the week thing, which is kind of, a weekly, this player played well, so they got a card for him at this rating, right? Well, now from what I saw when I went in and did a couple of challenges, is that they're giving you tokens for players. But if that player performs in a certain manner in the real life game, then that token will be worth more. And if they don't, then it'll be worth less. Now, right there, I stopped when I saw that because I was reading it, because I was like, whoa, why? I thought, I got a Stephon Gilmore card. And I was like, well, why isn't it letting me, upgrade him and add him to my team? And as I read the paragraph that actually described what it does, it was basically the same concept that I told these guys about months ago when I said, hey, you have players that you can actually, set up for them to be able to get better by putting them in these live fantasy football tournaments, and if they win one game, or if they don't win a game at all, and when it comes to the points tournament, there's an opportunity for that player to actually get improve through experience points. So they took that and just kind of threw a little watered down version into what they're doing right now, where they're allowing you to get more coins if this person performs at a certain level, and get less if he doesn't. So if he hits this goal, and Stephon Gilmore's was, if he gets like 2 interceptions this week, this coin will be worth 1,500, or this card will be worth 1,500 coins, something like that. And it just, right when I read that, the light bulb just went off in my head, because I was like, whoa. Didn't I just talk to him about doing something like this just like a few months ago? Like, did they really just hijack my idea?
How many times did you talk to them about this? Because I think what a lot of people are missing from this is essentially what you have here. And I'm not sure that we've been in this position before. Essentially, You've got someone coming out and saying you and EA had a working, I don't want to say relationship, but you were having communication between each other about what you felt the game could do. And then from there, you approached them with an idea that really they hadn't done anything like before. And now you see a situation where all of a sudden, within a month of that conversation, they've taken pretty much the core idea of this, although slightly different. They've taken the core idea and put it into their game, never really contacting you and saying, hey, this is something we're considering. And it just seems suspicious to me in that same light of what they did versus what you told them almost go hand in hand. And yet all of a sudden you see this new Team of the Week presentation for Madden Ultimate Team. And I'm sure a lot of people would appreciate and enjoy it, but at the same time, many of them may not totally understand. You were the one that came to them with a very similar idea. They just never actually applied it without telling you they were going to.
Yeah, in a sense, right? So again, like this is something that I actually have. Like I have an entire outline for this that I did because I worked on most of it for about a month, and I just did an outline. So when we first started talking about fixed Madden franchise, and I was like, franchise. How do you make franchise more accessible to people who want to get in games and play them quick? My first thought was, fantasy football. Everybody loves fantasy football. A lot of people are on fantasy football teams, but the concept of it is very straightforward and dry. You select your offense and you select the defense, and you can run a draft just like you run a draft, in fantasy football. You select how long you want your season to be. So you can pick, 4, 6, 8, and 16. You can choose between those lengths of seasons, and every game that you play in is going to basically be set up with a number of milestones that you have to reach. And these milestones are based off of exactly what, as professional football players, when we go into our meetings on Wednesday to start our week, we have an entire game plan laid out and what our goals are going to be at that game plan. But also on top of that, we have an entire list of different, I guess, for lack of a better description, for when you're talking video games, a list of different algorithms that you have to be able to attain. You have to be able to use these different formulas to dictate whether your chances of winning go up or go down. So third down conversion, first down conversion, efficient first down play, efficient second down play, third and short, third and medium, third and long, special teams like average punt return, defense, points allowed, yardage allowed per carry, yardage after catch, all these different stats that go into football. There's averages in every one of them that push a team past the halfway point to get to have a probable win based on their numbers. And these are things that should play into the game as you play it, so that you should be rewarded for as you play the game. Because at the end of the day, if you're playing the game the right way, then your chances of winning are usually going to be much higher. But as far as fantasy football comes into play, fantasy football, I think, is what can give an online franchise mode of that nature a little bit more for people to dig into, because now you create sort of a marketplace for different cards and those cards attributes can change based on what's happening in real life. So you can build a team, and that team can always get better and better, but it still takes into account what's going on in real football to give a little bit of an alternative take on franchise mode. So it's not a pure franchise mode, but it's more of an online fantasy franchise mode. So you can build up your own teams, you can play them through seasons, you can stat track everything, but you can also use those players on your teams in different ways that align with what the structure is for fantasy football. Like I said, you could put them in actual tournaments where You don't use this player. He's been sitting on your bench. So you put him in there and see if you can get some more experience points so you can make him a better player as you go forward. If you play a game, you might win the game, but you were playing a little bit cheese. You were playing with a little bit of cheese, and you get hit for points on that. Well, now you've lowered the ceiling for your team. You may not be able to push your team past a certain point. There will be different play styles, different styles of offense, styles of defense. You can set up coordinators, offense and defense coordinators, and you have to actually pick players based on the styles of those coordinators. If you pick a Marshawn Lynch and put them in you put them in like a Tom Brady spread offense, that's not going to work. The player's overall rating will drop because that's not what he's supposed to be playing. That's not the system he plays in. If you put if you have a like a Stephon crap, why my brain is zooming.
What do you want?
Here.
Stephon Gilmore, Stephon Diggs?
Yeah, I was gonna say Stephon Diggs, but I meant Stephon Gilmore. If you have Stephon Gilmore, who's pretty much a man, he's a hybrid man zone DB, but if you put him in just a purely zone coverage defense, well, it's gonna bring his man coverage down some. If you're not using their abilities, if you don't use it, you lose it. So if you're not using a guy the right way, then those abilities that they have can be, tempered downward because of that. Just a lot of different variables that really do play into real football if you've been in that before. But in the video game, I think it provides a steeper learning curve. I think it provides consequences for people who don't play, for people who play Madden, but not football. There are people who play football when they play video games, and there are people who play Madden when they play a video game. So, I look at it like, I played somebody today. This dude was running these weird formations. He wasn't running weird formations. He was doing the motion trick, the motion glitch, to see if I was in man or zone, and then he would flip his play, but my defenders wouldn't move. So I had DBs who were supposed to be covering the guy on the opposite side of the field, who, when the ball is snapped, then they start to run over to that side, leaving the guys wide the heck open. So if you start doing things like that, where this is not what teams do in the NFL, they don't motion over, flip the play because they see man or they see zone. They'll just know that they can go a different way, go to a different route instead of flipping the play around. And clearly it's something that's broken the game. So if you start doing these things that don't make sense, you lose points. If you start calling 5 or 6 hot routes instead of running, which basically changes the play completely from what you called, you lose points. If you, like I said, go for it on 4th and 15 inside your own 30-yard line, you lose a lot of points because that's not, even if you get it, you still lose a lot of points because that's not how you play football. But like I said, I found it funny that they now all of a sudden have a system that they're putting in place with the team of the week stuff where you can actually get a better, more worthwhile player if they do something in the real life game. Right, 2 months after I've talked to these guys about something that's very similar in way of, giving the consumer something to play for. So
yeah, I think to me that's what it boils down to. You have to have a more closer tie to the gamer, the real NFL, and the game. Like right now, everything is disconnected. I don't really watch. Of course, I watched the game this weekend, but I don't see a whole lot of carryover from that game to Madden. For example, when you play the Colts, Frank Wright, I think Frank Wright went for it on 3 4th downs in that game. You load up Madden, you play against the Colts, you might not have that same aggressive tendency. We talked about it on the show that we did on Sunday or Monday, whatever day that was. T.Y. Hilton gets down to the end of this game. He has an opportunity to possession catch to secure drives. T.Y. Hilton's a great wide receiver. He's won more games for the Colts than he'll ever lose. I don't have anything against him dropping passes. That's life. It happens. However, when you look at Madden, the state of the game right now, you're a hold a button down for a possession catch. Madden seems to take what happens to be some of the most difficult things, skills, traits, things that are mastered. It takes years to master possession catches between, a receiver like Peyton Manning, Reggie Wayne, Marvin Harrison. That connection takes seasons upon seasons to develop. Madden wants to take that moment and put it down into a hold the button press. So, to me, I think what you were trying to express to them is there's a way to bring all these things together to engage the consumer more. Listen, I know, and everybody here, we want the game better. We want to build a better product. But at the end of the day, right now, we all have to accept where we are. And one of the things I think we really need to build upon is getting away from this Madden slot machine, this dice roll machine, and trying to build a game that we can at least sit here and have some interest in. Right now, to be fair, all creators, there's no interest in this game. Look at our numbers. Go compare the stream numbers on Twitch to any other game. You have to find a way to bring interest to this game, right? A lot of it is diluted because the game is just bad. So if you can find a way to get people interested and involved, that's a positive. But the fact that they took a concept that you clearly came out to them and shared, hey, this is what I think you should do, and then all of a sudden they go ahead and implement, even in the vaguest of fashions, this into their game, which they've done similar things before. They used to let you go predict the Super Bowl, predict those big games, but they never did something along the lines of tying the player to the real life actual, as I said, in the Ultimate Team, you could go in and it's like, can this player throw for over 3,000 yards? It's totally different as opposed to what they've implemented now. I do also want to get your thoughts, to move forward from that before we drag this out a little bit longer. You and I both played the beta. Obviously, we spent a fair amount of time with it. I have so many people that are coming to me and saying this game is an extension of the beta, that, gamers have been playing the beta. I know that, and Madness came out and started this whole new feedback process. But at the same time, I can tell you my personal experience from 4 or 5 years of beta testing this game. There's a hard one to say. This was, to me, hands down, the closest from beta to final game I've ever played. I can't help but think that the consumers feel a lot of that too. And obviously, with all the patching and additions and add this, add that, the franchise mode gets booted around. I can't help but think that there's not a lot of truth to that you have a lot of people out here that are playing a paid or in some cases free version of the beta. And now it's all kind of come home to everyone, right? No one wants to pay for a game that's the same as what we had a couple months ago. And obviously, for that matter, no matter what they add to the game, I've seen people still, and I am waiting for a video, any of the, 350 people here, you let me know or send me a video. I have had a lot of people tell me they can still access the beta. Excuse me, not the beta. See, look where my mind goes. They can still access the free trial by putting their game console simply to sleep, load back up into the game, and it's still there. So if that's the case, there's a real problem. Because if you made people download a patch to play it for free, then you have to patch it to get it paid again. So as irrelevant as it may seem that somebody would just continually put their console to sleep to avoid paying a game, not so much the point of the fact that EA doesn't have the forward thinking of saying, hey, if we're going to run this for a limited time, we got to keep it on a limited time. They kept the beta for a limited time. But to me, there's a big problem there if people can continue to access this game for free as we roll into a Wednesday. And as soon as I get a video of that, you can be sure that I'm going to stop whatever I'm doing, including sleeping, and go record that audio.
Yeah, dude. I mean, look, I don't see, to me, it's just, I look at this and I think they must have done this. We must be playing what's essentially a beta for next gen, because to me, the only thing that even like remotely makes sense is that that they would release a game that's so like broken out of the box. I mean, so broken out of the box that you could actually mistake it for being just like a beta, that they uploaded the wrong files onto their server to put the game out. But it only makes sense that this could be something that they're doing with eyes towards next gen. That's probably why they're giving the next gen pass out for free, because everything that we're complaining about now, you would expect with the next gen version that it would more than likely be rectified at that point. Like, because we all know that they're not changing the engine for next gen. We know that they're not rebuilding the programming foundation with next gen. So we're going to continue to get the same feel. And that's one of the things that, for me, that's one of the things that's distinct about Madden that I feel has not changed. I mean, going all the way back to PlayStation and PlayStation 2 days. When you play a Madden game, going from 2004 all the way to now, it essentially all feels exactly the same. When they moved over to Frostbite, they didn't change anything that really had to do with how momentum and, player movement looks and feels in the game. When you're running in Madden, it doesn't really feel like you're running. It just feels like you're gliding over the surface. But the animation is just feet moving, but it doesn't really feel like you're really running. Your momentum doesn't mean anything in the game. You can be going full speed with a 6'3", 220-pound Eddie George run into a defensive back with his shoulders square and low and about and lowered, and he literally can be knocked to the side or backwards by a defensive back. So that means that you don't have any calculations for momentum, which is, that's part of like physics. Like, there is momentum. Like, you should always account for momentum, especially in a game like football. Momentum is huge. The body falling from Eddie George is known throughout his career. He was known as a running back who always fell forward because of his momentum, his size, and his strength. But a DB can knock a guy like that backwards in the open field where he's been running from 10 yards out straight at this guy. And, that's always been Madden. That's always been Madden. Momentum doesn't mean anything. So why would we expect that any kind of things that we see as a problem right now in the game are going to be better as this game's life cycle goes on this gen? Because they have no real incentive to do it. They don't have any incentive. The only thing that they have an incentive for right now, in my mind, is next gen. And and whatever base they set with next gen, that's what you're gonna get for the next 10 years. So
there's no way that they are building a whole new game. There's no way that you're going to convince me this is all a setup for 2021, next gen version. I've seen,
I'm saying is that they're fixing the bugs for the next gen game. They're looking at what's happening with this game, and they gave us a beta as the actual final product, and they're just going to throw in patches while they're already ironing out those patches for the next gen game. That's going to be the exact same thing without the bugs. So by the time we get to November, when we actually have the game where it is mostly bug free, we hope, that's when they're going to drop the next gen as it's perfectly polished to hit the market with the release of the new systems. And that is their focus. Because you can, if you had to guess on one thing for this year's game when it got released, is that they had probably minimum amount of people working on this game, because it has bigger problems than last year's game had, while at the same time feeling like the exact same game as last year. So what did they work on? Nothing, except for putting you can choose what celebration you want after a play that really kind of is more irritating than it is actually gratifying.
But this has been, years upon years upon years of a subpar game. At this point, I believe that we know for a fact this is based on the consumers, and you can sit there and say review bomb, all those things. This is the most negatively received game EA has put out with the Madden label. Even being free right now, you have to question what damage has been done. They're never going to get that rating score back up. If they thought a free weekend, if they thought a free trial, if they thought, a pack of Jolly Ranchers and a hug was going to solve this, they're wrong. So you've left a bad taste in a lot of customers' mouth. You're primarily your dedicated hardcore customer that went out and bought the game and pre-ordered it feels slighted because now it's 25% off. You've really frustrated the mud gamers.
It's 25% off right now?
Yes. Don't you watch my channel? You also have the MUT gamers that are irritated because they haven't got their content drop. They're not getting anything new in terms of, even though you mentioned it, what they usually expect by this point. You've really segmented your franchise gamers out to classic franchise and face of the franchise. I don't know how face of the franchises can even be successful the way that story mode has worked out. And if anything, all you've done is cause the classic franchise gamers to just, run with pitchforks. I mean, literally, they're dragging this game, rightfully so, and certainly, I think even to the point of my channel, you will see people that generally would have overlooked things in the past that were negative because they enjoyed some aspect of the game. I used to see a large amount of people that could come to my channel and say, you have the availability of nitpicking this or not nitpicking that, but you still enjoy this aspect of the game, so I'm going to overlook this. This isn't a big deal to me. Those people are gone. Those people are to the point now where they see, okay, if you can't get the little things right, then the rest of it doesn't matter. You can put as many sprinkles as you want on a raw cupcake. Nobody's going to eat it because it's raw. Right. And for Clint to come out and say what he said the other day, where they try not to copy and paste a game, when we all know.
We know because y'all didn't change the Madden 20 to Madden 21 on the practice facility.
Right. I mean, it's almost like he's trying to see how much he can get away with at this point. It blows my mind that somebody would be so disconnected. I understand you can work on this game. You can understand its shortcomings and you can be proud of something. OK, there's a lot of people. I've done it. You work at a company you're not really proud of, but you still do your best to make the company better with the position you have. When you get to where Clint is, in my opinion, you're not doing that. You're creating excuses. You're generating a narrative. And at this point, I hate to say it, there was no need for that to be said. And that was actually said in the context of a controller mapping. So basically what he said was, and to be fair, I didn't show the whole tweet because it doesn't need to be shown. It actually looks worse when you actually bring it up that way. He basically said, hey, we didn't change the controller mapping because we don't want it to be, we changed the controller mapping because we wanted it to feel like a different game. We don't copy and paste.
How about just change the game so it is a different game?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't even say it because it was so out of the context.
That's like saying, you know how that's ridiculous, dude, how ridiculous that is. That's like telling Sony that they need to change the PlayStation controller so that it's not copy and paste.
Well, why wouldn't you say?
Why are you going to change square, triangle, circle, X? It's been that way, and that's how people want it.
But with his mindset, if you wanted a different game, play it on broadcast mode. Now it's a whole new experience. You've never seen it at this angle. You've never seen
you're going to get blown out. Your ass is you're going to get blown out.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible to me that he would come out and say something like that. I mean, at this point, like I said, I feel like, personally, I know that he's getting a lot of negativity, and certainly some people need to be more constructive with that. But it's comments like that. It's things like those little, it's almost like he just wants to jab back, right? Like at the end of the day, he gets all this negative energy pushed his way, and justifiably so, I'm sure. He wants to get a punch in or two as well. But, the reality is we've not punched back for 9-8 years, right? So you have
we have. We just didn't have social media to carry the message. Dude,
Well,
I remember in college, me and my teammates used to play Madden for hours, and we went through a number of controllers because we would be playing the game, and there's always one person in our group who found the money play or the glitch, and they would just exploit it and destroy all of us. And it didn't matter how good we were. It came down to the fact that he had that little advantage with certain things he would do, or we try to look at his controller and see what he was doing, but this is before the digital age of online social media and GIFs and all that. But we would be furious. We'd be like, yo, this game is garbage. This game is garbage. You can't do that over and over and over. Like, the game just won't cover it. It won't cover it no matter whether I'm running man or zone. And that was between us. That was between us in our spot. But we recognized that the game was trash, but we just couldn't do nothing about it. And the next year a game would come out. We'd hope that this year, okay, hopefully Madden this year, they fix some of that. They fix this, they fix that. You start playing the game. We're all sitting there playing. Everybody's hyped up to play. We start playing. The cat who knows who had his money plays, he would go straight to find them, and they still worked. And we'd be like, oh my God. It's almost like you don't even want to play the game no more. You're like, yeah, I'm good. Let's play something else. But no, the social media age has allowed for that voice to come out. So while we know right now that it's been like 5 years, really, it's been like 10 years, dude. Really, it's been like 10.
Well, I do know that I saw some footage yesterday from a competitive gamer, and I told you a little bit about it. And to be fair, seeing the way a defense reacts with paid cards, right? So he goes out and he gets high-end cards, seeing how that defense plays versus a regular team of someone that's not willing to spend, 10, 15, whatever, 100,000 you call it. To me, I had never seen, and part of it is just
it's
ignorance.
Unbelievable.
I had never seen cut and dry. Here's the same cover two, but when you have this special paid team, this safety is playing like an actual NFL player. Now, when you don't have that, you've got a guy that has no context of how to play football. I mean, what I saw yesterday in terms of zone reads,
unbelievable.
There's no excuse. And I'll tell you right now, I think ultimately, we're going to sit down and we're going to do a video on this. These are the videos that I feel like are going to really impact EA. I think when an average person, that's what I think where we really have to get to that point. We've sat here and we've talked about really specific details, X's and O's and things for years. But when you can actually present something to somebody that is zero involved in video games or in Madden and doesn't understand, and you say, listen, here's the reality. Here's, Joe with his parents' credit card spending $100 on his team, and this is how his players react. And he's playing against Madden competitive guy that spends $6,000 on his team, and these players play 100% different. Okay, that's going to cause a problem because once a parent, once somebody rationally sees that, they're going to want answers. They're going to want to say, why does this happen? And the only answer to them is going to be pay to win. The only answer to them is going to be pay to play. That's the end. That is where we have to get to, I think, as a community to show, hey, this is more than just a broken game. The game can be correct, but the only way it wants to be correct is who's going to spend more money. And when that day comes, it's going to rain down on EA, and it's not just going to be our community sitting there talking about, the way we get mocked, the way some of these, I mean, not all of them, but I feel like there's some arrogance from the EA developers when they talk to you about their game. I think that's going to be, really powerful stuff. I know, like I said, I'm not a MUT gamer. I know you are. I've watched you play MUT a couple times, and I've heard the frustrations. But, the reality is you look at it one way against the other, there's no logic to it.
There's none.
There's no reason those players should pay. There's no reason those players should play that differently. And, I feel like if that's the way the game is, then you've got a game that doesn't care about its players. You've got a game that doesn't care about being competitive. You've got a game that doesn't care about how the people feel as they play it. You've got a game that cares about one thing, and that's money. How many packs can we sell? What's the incentive to sell these packs? And to be fair, no community No community.
Skill means nothing in MUT, dude.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. I won't say it means nothing because I've had plenty of wins over guys that I would attribute, clearly to that I understood football better than them and I played the scenarios that we were in better than they did. They were relying heavily on just having better players, that's where I beat them. But that's like a 20% win ratio out of 10 games. You might win if you play 10 games with somebody against somebody who has better rated players than you. If you're just better at football in certain aspects, it's hard to explain it, but you're only going to win a couple times. You'll play, sim and actually like move the ball down the field easily. But then when you get to the red zone, that's where them having higher rated players makes it extremely hard to score. So because everybody, once you get into the inside of the 30-yard line, everybody in Madden who I would assume all watch the same YouTube videos on what defenses to run. They run the exact same defenses. They run a cover 4 shell and they rush 1 and sit all their D linemen and all of their linebackers and QB spies. Which, I mean, come on, dude. You shouldn't even be able to QB spy with somebody who doesn't play at least a line, who is not at least capable of playing a linebacker position. You don't have defensive tackles and QB spy. For what? They're not going to stop the quarterback. But in Madden, they will, because they track the quarterback anywhere he goes. So the thing is, I played somebody today. My highest rated player on my MUT team is a 91. And that's only one player. From there, the next highest player is an 89. And then it goes 86, 85, 84, and all the way down to about 82. 82 is probably my lowest in my lineup, and 91, my tight end, Tony Gonzalez, is the only 90 on the team. I played 2 games today. One guy had like 80, his best players were like 84, 83, 84, and I beat him. It was a competitive game until the fourth quarter. Then I spread it out by by 2 scores. The next game I played against a guy who had 91, 92, 93. I don't know how he got 93. And then 89s and 88s, 87s across the board. And it's stupid because the game almost scripts you into just ridiculous reactions. Like, my quarterback has no pressure, yet I roll a little bit out of the pocket, set my feet, and throw to the receiver at the side who's running towards the sideline, and he doesn't even look at the ball. And the ball goes behind him to the linebacker who's chasing, and he intercepts it. And I'm like, wow, that's awfully convenient that in a third down situation where my quarterback is out of the pocket with no pressure, he sets his feet so he's not throwing on the run, and I throw the ball on an out route where my guy he's making his break. I'm throwing it as he's breaking. And he doesn't even pay attention to the ball. And the linebacker who was covering, and this was Tyreek Hill, by the way, Tyreek Hill. The linebacker who's covering him, who's just chasing, just looks up and there's the ball and he snatches it. He gets in front of it and snatches it. And that was the first time it happened. And I was just like, I could tell that was scripted in because that throw was completely off. That is not where an out route throw goes when you throw it on time. I threw it on his break. Ball was in the air. Ball was in the air actually like a split second before he broke. So he was going to run full speed into that ball. And he ran right past it without even looking at the ball. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm down 7-0 now because he gets the ball and he scores in like 2 plays. And on top of that, when he's on offense, I'm watching. He ran the dive play every single play. He ran dive. My linebackers did not even react to the ball. They stood in place and let the offensive lineman get up to the second level without even moving. I was like, no way. There's no way they're not reacting. My defensive backs aren't even aware that the running back is running towards them because they're getting blocked. They're just staying on the block animation, not even looking for the ball. There's something, when you shed a block, when defenders try to shed a block, if they can't shed immediately, they extend their arms to keep you at a distance and they peek for the ball. And if the ball is coming inside or outside, they try to escape to that side immediately. In Madden, they literally are hemmed up. And it's like they're about to get suplexed the way that they're getting blocked while the running back runs right by them. Like you see him from 5 yards out coming towards you. Get off the block. Escape it. That's what professionals do. And they don't do it because in any game, if you are rated, if your team and your individual players are rated any more than 2 points less than the players they're going against, they will not respond with any kind of alertness to anything on the field, and you'll see it clear as day. Then if you play somebody who's 2 or 3 points below you, you'll see your players break on everything. So what is it that changes between an 88 rated player and a 91 rated player to where the 88 rated player cannot respond or react to football plays as a B+ rated player?
I agree. I think, to wrap this up, I think the reality for many of us is with Madden, you're fighting 2 different battles. Number one, when you play online, you're playing against the other team, but you're also playing against the game. So you've got whatever defense, offense, anything that the other team is going to run against you. You not only have to combat that, you have to turn back around and worry about how your players are going to react, what animations you are going to get. What animations can the other team be guaranteed to get because of X factors and superstars? And there's this discrepancy, and none of that should matter. What should matter is 2 people play. Who is the better player? I can't tell you how many times I've listened to someone commentate a MUT game or even a competitive Madden game. Literally, we dealt with this a few years ago, and here he got the animation. By saying he got the animation, you're essentially saying, hey, this game is animation based. He got an animation that isn't able to be defeated. So therefore he's going to win. Same concept with you have a guy, controller dies. Give me any other sport game. Give me a first person shooter. Give me a racing game where someone's controller dies. Racing game, you're going into the wall. It's over. First person shooter, you're standing still. It's over. Madden, no. Madden, you absolutely keep playing. Your team will do whatever they want to do, and you'll complete tackles, sacks, pass deflections. It does not matter. I won a game.
If the takes over my guy, then it means I don't really have control of my player.
Exactly. I don't want to just play against Madden and a person. I want to play just against that person. Just let my players play against his players. And you know what? If his players are better than mine because he spent more money, so be it. I'll lose. But the fact that the game almost has to run some type of balancing act between we're going to keep you in the game, we're going to keep this competitive, your players are going to do this, his players are going to do that. But I don't want to say it feels like momentum, but every time I played Madden against somebody online, you just know, hey, you're going to get breaks and they're going to get breaks and you just have to push through it. So many times people quit because they feel like everything's going against them, but it's not. It's just the game is not giving you any positive animations. You're just getting blown up. The game should not be that way. From start to finish, whistle to whistle, it should be all about the players on the field and the player with the controller. And so often in Madden, it's about the animation dependency and what the game feels like it has to do to make it actually competitive. So we're going to wrap this up. We got about 5 more minutes. If you didn't listen to the beginning, I would recommend you go back and listen to it. Uche went into a large detail about some conversations he had with EA Sports, some ideas he presented them with, and then ultimately what we learned was today, in a way, they took some of those ideas without really contacting him or discussing with him they were going to, and implemented them into Madden Ultimate Team. So I know I'd mentioned earlier in the show, this is one of the things that I felt was really going to benefit my channel. I thought I was going to look at having, almost the breaking of breaking news on my channel with what they were going to do. And, unfortunately, it's a tough situation where, we have to deal with, some adversity through it. But I think overall, hopefully there can be some clarification as to why EA did what they did and if your concepts were ever actually put into it. Other than that, I know people have been begging for more of the breakdowns with Uche. We're going to do some things. We're going to try to do some things together on a breakdown. Bring like the best of both worlds, I guess. But we're definitely still looking at that. And today is the day. You only have another, if you're on the East Coast, 35 minutes, 45 minutes. In 10 days, we'll have maximum football. So at some point, I'm going to have to unload all my Maryland.
And sorry to cut you off there. I actually got the people who actually work with the company there for Maximum Football reached out to me today. They want me to come on to one of their shows and talk.
Oh, see that? Look, yeah. Uche dropping the exclusive. Gonna be dealing with the old Maximum Football Brigade. So I know I've got a whole bunch of Maryland Academy Mingos videos left up, but we're gonna go out of here. We appreciate you guys checking this out, and who knows? I guess on the playback. Let us know if you guys want to see more of these. I know it's impromptu, but maybe we'll hop on a few more. If not, I'll leave a link down in the description to Uche's channel. We go on his channel every Sunday night, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Talk about football, talk about Madden. And this week, we've got a special guest. A guest that's been on my channel before. A guest that I won't name. A guest that when you guys see him on the channel, you're probably going to scratch your head a little bit, but don't worry, because me and him are cool. And I know a lot of you will want to listen to that conversation. So with that said, we appreciate you guys checking this out. And we'll both. I mean, at this point, he's got his own channel, but I've got my channel. Be back in the week with more commentary.